Right. Hi, guys. Hello. And thank you for coming. We are ready to go. Let me give you the link that you need. I'm sharing the screen here, and I'm giving the link to the class or to our webinar here. Okay, and that's the one. Now, I'm giving you the bit.ly link to that so that you can copy paste it or type it as is, and I'm giving that to you on chat. Good morning from Vallejo. That is George Johnson. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, George. That's awesome because you gave a good example. Everyone can follow this example. Okay. And tell us where you are. Tell us where you are. All right. And that's what I'm giving you. So, especially for those people who are new to that, that is what we're doing. And here is what we will be doing today. So July 5, and we are going to go through all of that. And then before we went through all of that. So you have a complete record of more than 2 years of us meeting and discussing and suggestion and the difference between other potential conversations and this one is that I do try everything. I try to download a lab and run it for you, and it doesn't always work. So it's getting better and better, and that's what I will be talking today. But I keep in mind that, let's see, where's my chat? Here is the chat. And I will try to keep it open so that if you say something, I'll see it. And also, I will use your suggestions, put them on the next session. Ganesh, thank you. Okay. And I'll try to watch it because the screen is big enough so I can see what you're saying. If you need to talk, then I'll be very happy to enable that. It's just that I am afraid of robots that may take over, and they did it once, and they were saying things that were not nice, obviously generated. So that's why you can text, but so far, right now, you cannot talk. Okay. From Brazil, James, are you already there? You mean you already moved, right? Okay, great, wonderful. Now let us start. So usually I give you some new things, what's going on, and that one attracted my attention in particular. The truth is that I read many emails, and one of them, Andrew Ain, whatever is going on this week, his email comes on Wednesday, so by Friday I saw it. And these are the things that he says that enlighten us on what's the purpose. And that's because every one of his courses is free. Okay, let me explain you what I mean. This is a learning path. If you click on that, and that's an open public link, contains the course name here on the left. It contains then what is the course about. And you see how many there are, 15 or about 15. Then it has the link to the course, and let's go to any one of these. Just as an explanation, let's go to one of the, no, really, let's do any one of them. Deep learning. So you would click on that link, and you do need the subscription. It remembers my subscription. So you get a lecture, then you get a notebook, and it works in their environment. but that is the only place where it works. If you try to run it in the environment, let me show you what I mean. So they will start talking, okay? And as they
In this
start,
video, Isa will present some guidelines for prompt.
and as they start talking, here you will have a notebook and you can run it. There you are. You can run it. Let me show you. You really can. There you are. I imported everything and they give you the key. So if I want to see that key, I just type this variable. That's how you see the key, and there you are. They gave you the key, but they probably change it because now with that key, I can go and spend their money, right? That is not what they would want, but in any case, yes, you can run it here. You can do lots of fun stuff in their lab, but once you try to run it on your own, it definitely breaks. So it's like watching a TV show. What I'm doing here is moving everyone, copying every one of these labs to our repository. Giving you an example, here is our repository, essentially the same, but it has something added. It has a README. Well, in that case, it doesn't tell you much, but I will show you those that have more, and it has additional data files, for example, and today we're going to look at 27 and 28. It has additional data, which you need. So there you are. That's the real data that they use in the lab. And then it has additional functions which do not show up when you look at the course, but they are a must. And then also we prepared for you this. So before I jump into that, let me make sure that I follow what I want to do. So I wanted to talk about Andrew A, and that led me to show what we do with his courses. We prepare them for real learning. And there are two ways to use that. Way number one, we'll just try to run it. I have an intern. It's a brilliant girl who has done 5 internships while still in high school. And she is the last step of verifying that the labs work. And they don't always work even for her. But that work is done with a group of my friends, programmers. And what we do now is give you a real working labs which were verified. I'm still and haven't discussed that, but what I'm going to talk about is this. So if you go back here and scroll to the right, you will see now the status. And done as means that someone who is working on that has made sure that it works on his or her computer. And then I go there and also verify that those instructions are exactly what's needed. And with these instructions, I can run. And for you guys, the only thing that is missing will be the keys. Keys I cannot give away because obviously that will be a security breach. In fact, many providers are very careful. Once you publish that key to GitHub, immediately that key is invalidated. So in many cases, it wouldn't even help. All right, but we do give you the instructions on how to get the key. So one way to use it is, in addition to Andrew's course, you can also run it in our environment. And we give the instructions on how. Now, of course, I'm a trainer, at least for now. I'm doing elephant scale training. And the honest truth is that I will take these courses and convert it to something that I'm going to teach commercially to the students. Yes, it's available here, but what you add is the trainer. And the training is back. For a couple years, training was kind of in the balance. People were not sure. First of all, you have lots of recorded materials, and you can buy any library. So you get a subscription, company-wide subscription. Great, everybody was doing it. But after that, it turned out that 90% of those people who start those courses don't finish. And that means you need somehow to make sure that they finish. So you hire a trainer and he makes sure that they finish. And the boss says, okay, 3 days you're free to learn it, and you have to know it. Plus, we're adding stuff. We're working on the AI tutor, which will query them on how well they know the material. All right, that's coming back. So people know that AI is not the answer to education. It is a help. It's great, but it is not replacing the trainer. So, okay, the second use of that is that I'll be using it in the classes, and you see there are quite a lot of lessons. And with that, we came to read what Andrew Ng actually said. And that's what he said. I'll read it. In my years of working in education, that's Andrew, I felt the world has enough low quality courses, right? That is a strong statement. There is a lot of, insert your pejorative word here, in education. There are newsletters, social media posts, and I also don't like that material. I, in particular, don't like the journalists just because they are, to me, the worst on this ladder, but they're all bad. However, it's possible to build a business churning out mediocre content in sufficient volume to attract meaningful amount of attention, but I have no interest in doing that. Oh, okay, that's the preface to what he's going to say, because then he says, and that's his personal point of view, that also explains the whole story of the courses. I showed you that they're building courses, and there is a list. I show my list. That's my list. But they have their own list of what they have already built, and they emphasize that what they build is super quality, even though it comes for free. I don't know how long it will be free, but right now it's in beta, and it has been in beta more than a year. Okay. But one reason I obsess about building quality training materials is that I think learning must be a habit. Hey, so I want to emphasize it, but I want to make it visible. All right. Well, I personally couldn't sympathize more with that. I do agree. Learning has to be a habit, and learning a little every week is important to get through the volume of learning we all need, and additionally, to keep up with changing technology. Now, that may not be the best thing you would like to hear if you are not into that. But according to him, there is no way out. Well, according to me, my personal opinion, there is no way out. And long time ago, I started learning every day. It doesn't matter what I was learning. It was more in the way of philosophy, but every day was a key. And then I made a statement. I said, okay, I walk around, so I understand a few things today. Who knows when I'll be older, what it will be? So I'm giving you my personal story, and I continue learning every day and see what happens. So right now, what I see practically is that many of my colleagues come up with statements, you don't want to learn the new stuff. No, you would like to do something else. I heard it from them. And because I believe I was learning, I'm just the opposite. I'm willing to learn new things. It even gets me into trouble. Like they ask me, will you do this course? And I don't like maybe the price or other circumstances, but what is it about? It's interesting. I will learn it. I'll do it. That's my style now. So it kind of worked. I'm very happy that I see it from another source. I also sympathize with Jeff Dean. And Jeff Dean, of course, everybody knows. This is Jeff Dean. Now I need to move that window. That is Jeff Din. And his motto is that you have a new software, you need to download it and try it. You don't just talk about it, you don't discuss it with friends. No, you do it. Okay. Resume share. Okay. Well, Jeff Dean once came to Houston, that's where I am, and to the Rice University, and he talked about exactly that. All right, with these two authorities, I'm kind of voicing I also think so. But right now, I talked about that enough. I'm going to really show what I'm giving you now, guys. So this is open, and you can watch our progress, and you see all that were prepared and accepted. And what I want to do is show you, I want to show you exactly how you do it. So, and what we prepared. So for that, I will go to this, right? And I'll go to README, right? README here. And when you come to a lab, every lab has a number, which is just sequential number. And every lab has two instructions. So if you come here, first of all, where did we get it from? From this course. Secondly, what if you want to run it the first time? You click here, and that's the instruction. Now, the person who did it is great, but she used specific versions like pip3. I think it should be pip, but guys, you will figure it out. So if that's not exactly the tool that you are using, you'll replace it with your tool, especially here. She would suggest Jupyter Notebook and it would work. But if you're familiar with that, you will say Jupyter Lab, and that's the new version that would also work. That is if you do it the very first time. And if you do it the very first time, it creates a directory right here. It will be a local directory, so it will not travel into GitHub. Even if you clone it, it will be that. And that is the directory that contains the script to activate your environment. So previously, I had one virtual environment. I called it OpenAI, but it doesn't matter what you call it. Now there is a virtual environment for each lab. So if you're running 27, you're running 27, and the very first time you go through all of these steps, and they should work. The important step is that. That is what sets you to run exactly that lab and perhaps no other. So you go on the command line. Go on the command line, navigate to that place. Oh, sorry. That's this invisible window, which is all often in the way, okay? Navigate to that place. In my case, it's here. And then 27. Now you're there. If you do ls, you already created this 27. That's where you store your virtual environment, and all you need to do is source 27/bin/activate. That activates the virtual environment for that lab. And 27 is how you see that you are indeed activated for running this lab. After that, you start Jupyter Lab. Jupyter Lab. And when you do that, it starts a browser. All right. Now, since you are in that particular directory, it opens to exactly this point. What you need to look at are the labs, and you can again look at how to run. Let's say we are looking at how to run, and it says all you need to do is activate that, then start Jupyter Lab on Notebook and verify the environment. But I think I never have to verify the environment. It somehow is the right environment. Let's look. I'm moving all those Zoom windows around. Let's see. What about the environment? I don't see the environment, so ignore that, I will say. And try to run. Here's the lab. I was actually showing you this lab. It did work. But what I added today is that it does work, really. So what I will do is let's clean it all up. Here you are. The lab is about talking to your data with AI. I'm very, very excited about this. You could see it if you saw the previous and the one before. That's because it's so many use cases. And in particular, e-discovery is a wonderful use case. You used to have to know a person who deals with your project. And when you ask, well, how many documents do they have that are not encrypted? So you would have to call him or her, and she would run some SQL for you and give you the answer. You know, it is the same as any other area that's not automated. That sounds quite old. So today you can run this AI and then you can tell it, look, just tell me how many documents I have and how many of them are not encrypted. And it will figure out the SQL and run it. That's what this lab is about. So just to begin with, you should verify that it works, that all these imports work. And the reason they should work is because you just did your virtual environment. The next step is you import all the keys. Now let's look at the keys. OpenAI version. That is something that you would need to figure out and check what is the current OpenAI version. Another thing, which is the Azure deployment, OpenAI key, and Azure endpoint. All of this, if you don't quite know, you can just ask. And asking ChatGPT perhaps is the easiest. So you say, ChatGPT, what should I put for what that Windows and what? Let's try. And it says typically this or that, or Google, but in any case, you'll get the key. All right, that's the only thing that you need to do, but there is no way out. You need to know a little bit about your environment. That is hidden. It comes from the .env file at the top of that project, at the root of that project. So I get it, and I hope that it works, and that these are the really right keys. After that, you just want to try, does it work altogether? So you want some translation to be done, and then you ask for translation, and then you will be reusing. When you're reusing that, you will do, it's mostly model that you're using. Model, and on top of the model, there will be a message. That's how we send it. All right, now I will repeat how you do it with the database. So the same thing, you start with the database, import more stuff. It should still work. And that you don't have to worry about because the lab is guaranteed more or less, as far as guarantees work, it's guaranteed to work. And this load.environment is crucial because that gives you the key. If you comment this out, what will happen? Let me comment it out. Okay. It will still work, but it will not have the key. So when you come to this place and you load the data and you ask questions, come to ask a question. Well, it still works, but that's only because I already ran it once. So I've proven my point, but not completely. If you don't load the environment, you don't get those keys. So really, it should be like that. And I shouldn't take that out. Then I run it again. All right, so you don't have to understand that when you run it the very first time. You just click, click, click on run. By the way, I did something else. It loads. Run, run. So there are two ways to run. For the people who are not very familiar, either you click here and it runs, or You hold the shift key and the enter, and that's what you get used to doing later on. I see the comment. It says it's very useful to have someone debug the deep learning.8 labs. Well, that's what we're doing, and thank you, Greg. I would always try to run them locally, exactly like I'm doing. And the number I had to debug, yes, by finding solutions by others on the web. There might be some environments set up that deep learning didn't make explicit. Exactly, and they are preparing a TV show, and they're not very interested in you debugging it on the local machine. And that happened just a second ago. I was debugging that with the intern on her machine, and lo and behold, works for me, works for the other person, but doesn't work for her, and she is left to debug it locally. So even that is not easy, not guaranteed, even though I gave her my keys. All right, so here we are running, and what we're doing in this lab is that we're connecting to the database. Now, in this case, where do we get the database? Easy. We load a data, and where is that data coming from? It's coming from right here, from the data. So that's what we had to add to the lab. But now that we have the data, we're going to stick it into a SQL database, and we are using an in-memory database that is called SQLite. Once you do this, once you put it into the SQLite database, you can talk to it using the SQL language. And of course, that's much faster than if you were to ask these same questions from the CSV files. It would still work, but no fun. All right, so here we want to ask the question. Now, please look at the question. How many patients were hospitalized during October 2020 in New York and nationwide as the total of all states use the hospitalized increase column? Well, what I want to say is that that's not an obvious question. It's something you would give to your reasonably astute helper, or do it yourself. Figure out the SQL. In other words, you talk to the essence of the problem, but it understands. It creates an agent execute SQL, which implies that we're talking about what's called agentic. We're creating agents that are very focused on just one thing. That one agent knows about data and knows about SQL. And by the way, you can talk to the chat model that's behind, and it is a generic ChatGPT model. But if you're using that one, if you're using that agent, then I don't think it knows anything but SQL and your problem. Well, wonderful. I think that proves a point. It's a wonderful demo because it just shows right away the power of talking to your database. Not only talking, but it talks back. It says, oh, I see the database. I'll show you what I see there. Okay, that's what I see. And then it says, I will check if you're correct. I'll check the SQL statement. Is it even right? So it does that. Then it says, okay, now I'm going to use it. And I will use this select statement, and then continue. So apart from I'm excited and impressed by that, but for you guys, it should work, should run, and basically that's it. But that's not it, because look at this agent executor SQL. So that is a bunch of popular hot keywords, and the first is agent. So as Andrea suggested, don't make sure that it is, yes, it is an agent. No, it's not an agent. Anything that acts as an agent or something like an agent, that's good enough, and we will be calling it agentic. So it's not to argue about the definitions. It also tells you that it's agent executing SQL. That's pretty much wonderfully it. But what if I said agent executor, well, philosophy. The only thing that comes to my mind, philosophy, but not any philosophy. If you talk to ChatGPT about just blah blah philosophy, then it will give you some say this and some say that. And that's not what you're looking for, because it's a mix of different opinions. Let's say some people like dogs and some people like cats. Well, you should talk to cat lovers only when you want to talk about cats. And you should talk to dog lovers. That's a different love. And I think it's obvious that I'm a cat person. So you talk to the specific group of people, then you can get good answers. In other words, you should build agents in a very specific area. And there are a few tricks about how you build it. SQL is, by the way, in a way easy because it's so precisely defined. But what if I tell you, take gas chromatography as a discipline and make an expert? And such experts usually charge $400 an hour. So make me an expert, agent, executor, gas chromatography, so that I can talk about the depth of gas chromatography knowledge. Let's say I'm a lawyer who defends the client who is supposedly was driving drunk, and that's not a nice thing, but maybe he wasn't driving drunk. So how can you reason about this? Even today, you can talk to ChatGPT, and he will give you a line of defense, but what you need is a real $400 an hour expert. Well, the secret is out. That's what I want to build. And gas chromatography is a good example of what I want to build. And let's say I have already submitted an application for a grant to National Science Foundation, and I'll tell you how it goes, because they usually answer within a month. And if it is yes, then you have to submit another big application. But I'll tell you all the thorny paths that I will encounter. All right, so that was two things. First of all, guys, it seems like there's no way out and you have to learn every day, or at least Andrew Ng suggested every week. Secondly, I'm giving something that you can use. Here is a lab that is debugged to the point where we could debug it, even though 1, 2, 3, the third person couldn't run it. And third, I revealed my secret, what I'm doing now in that area. And let's go and look at our agenda. That's what I wanted to show, all of that. And I wanted to go 27. So what is already verified is 28, 29, and 30. What is accepted by me is 28. So let's go to 28. For that, I just click there, go to 28, and the structure is the same. You go to your README. README says if you run it for the first time, that's what you need to do. And if you run it for the second time, that's what you need to do. So let me do it. I go back to where I was starting my Python. I go now to the next level, 28. So I do cd ... slash 28. Oh, 29. No, I want 28. Even though 29 might work. And it says you are still in the 27 environment. So first, that's what it says, how to run it. I need to source the 28th environment. Let's try and see if it works. And I think first you need to deactivate current one. So let's try it. Let's say, I don't know if deactivate will work, but let's try pip deactivate. No, Honda deactivate. Yes, because it doesn't say 27 base. And now I am in 28 and I need to source 28. And now I am 28. You see that? So now if I do Jupyter notebook, and all of that is described in that instruction. Then what should start is the 28 lab. And all right, here we are. It looks a little bit strange. Oh, that's because it's not sized properly. But now that it is sized properly, I see we're in 28 lab, and we can open the very first one. And that one is talking about function calling. So you give your LLM functions. For example, you ask, what's the temperature in New York right now? Well, it couldn't know from previous training because it's today. So you give it a function that goes to whatever site and asks the temperature. And that's basically the idea. But Python that you are using is smarter than that. It doesn't even have to use your function, but it can use another function. And sometimes you don't know what function. So you give it a few functions and you say, you'll figure it out. And that's the style you would talk to a colleague, right? You do it somehow, you'll figure out you're smart. Well, that's exactly what you are saying. But you run it, and first you watch that it finds everything and it says true that I found it all. Then you feel very happy, and and the example I think they give was a funny example that I maybe showed yesterday or last time, that I can plot, I can draw pictures, but I want some fun pictures. So I want to give it a function called draw a clown face, so that when I will need a clown face, it will know to call that function. So here's my query. Can you draw a pink clown face with a red nose? And it's up to it to figure out what function to call, what parameters to give it. I think that's amazing and pretty smart. Let's do it. So execute. All right, wonderful. Yes. And then you can go and exercise some more and maybe change the model and see if it makes any difference. But in the end, you will want to have more clowns, all right? So you give it different parameters and it does another clown. You can did the same clown. So I need to change the description. Draw a clown face, yes. So where is the message? Where is this hey? So let's say green. All right, green nose. So notice I didn't want to figure out the parameters and where they are and all of that, which I always wanted to avoid, and I think most people also. You would prefer just to find that place where you're talking. That's what you want. And I wonder what it can do. Pink clown face, will it do, well, of course it will do any other color. I wonder if it will ever do an oval instead of a round. Yeah, it listens to that, but I want to make it harder. Let's say I say oval. Will it even understand me? That is an interesting thing. I think it can only do red because my function only does red. All right, well, demos should at some point break. In other words, otherwise it's not a demo. And then it shows you what other functions you can call. Every lab is there. And that's the dialog, feature extraction using function call, and so on. All right, at this point, I will stop sharing. I will stop sharing. I will also make myself mute. and I will ask for your questions. All right, but if there are no questions, that is a very good sign, because that means that I explained it well. And that is the rule in training. You know, the rule in training is that if you have some bad negative feedback, that will come. But if it is all positive, that means maybe nobody will write. And the rule is no feedback is very good feedback. Okay. George Johnson, no questions right now, but I may have some after trying to play with the labs. So what you need is that one link. I mean this. I'm sharing the screen again. And the link that you need is that. Oh, I closed it accidentally. Here it is. That's the one that you need. I will even copy it with the name. Here you are. That's what you need. Sending it to everyone. All right, so please play with the labs, and there are a few steps you want to take. Of course, it's nice to just click through the labs. That is a pleasure because it works. But then don't forget that you also need to listen to the lecture, and at least to the point where you know that you don't need to listen to the lecture. It's not a requirement, but it is also nice. And so my friends who work on these labs, they do this. They first of all make it work, but then they promise they will learn it. They will listen to the lecture. And that is because it shows that it's not obvious that just because you click through that, you know. So that's what they do. Now, the next step. The next step is to do something like what you would like to do, change it a little bit. So maybe I will put it here. First, click through the lamp. That's number one. Number two is listen to the lecture. Okay. Okay. Listen to the lecture. Then do some minor changes and run it again. Okay. Now, the next, there are a few phases of understanding in philosophy. One is that you have a good feeling that you understood. Another one is if you can repeat what was said. And the third one, if you can disprove it. So disprove it. That's the last final step. And in that case, by disproving, I would say do it in a different way. Do it more in a more interesting, more performing way. Now, your questions. But you still need an expert to review, similar to a developer who would need to review AI-generated code. Yes, I agree. And well, but that's a question of philosophy. Will AI replace us, or will it be our helper? And there are two ways to think of it. So I happen to think, just like Andrew A., that it will be our helper. I have to draw the parallel is that the more educated people think that it will be our helper, and and the rest of us think that maybe it will just kill us out. All right. Now, the next question is from Chaim. And did the example actually reach out in your provider? Yes, and that is a function in Python, and then it goes to the weather site. The weather site usually has the API, so it's 1 or 2 lines. And if you don't know how to do it, well, ChatGPT will tell you. The next question is from James. So we could make an agent and expert in a field and thus produce courses for such disciplines ourselves. So here, no. I'll tell you why. Because of what Andrew Ng has said. He mentioned that AI writes junky courses. Even though I have tools that were supposed to help you with writing courses, but no, they don't do it. And that's a big question. Will you create somebody on the level of Shakespeare? I'll leave you with that philosophical question because there are 2 ways to think about this. But 2 ways is also an answer. There doesn't have to be one answer. What has to be, I think, is that you know all the possible answers, or some of them, and can evaluate where they're coming from and where they're going to. But you don't need to decide one is the truth and the other one is no. Instead, you need to see the whole world as one complicated world with multiple points of view, which are all correct. All right, thank you very much. I wish everybody a great weekend and a great year to follow. Thank you. Everyone, thank you. Juan Carlos and Harris Betancourt. That's awesome. And Jad Schmeier. All right, goodbye.